Welcome to BIV today. I'm reporter Tyler Orton. And look, closures and travel restrictions, BC's tourism industry has been one of the hardest hit sectors amid the pandemic. So, what is the future for one of the most important pieces of the West Coast economy? Our guest today is working to help answer that question, and I'd like to welcome Trevor Carr. He's CEO of the Vancouver-based marketing and data consultancy Noise Digital. Trevor, thanks for joining us.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Tyler.
So you've been working with Destination BC on what's being described as a tourism data hub. And I'm wondering if you can kind of unpack what the problem is that you guys are trying to solve right now.
I think the big problem we're trying to solve is just one of scale when it comes to the travel industry's interest in trying to understand people's intent on trying to travel to BC, especially during the pandemic, when we're able to safely market our province as a travel destination. But more specifically, the Data Hub is really a shared data cooperative where we can share technology, share insights, and share data in order to personalize messages that go out into the marketing ecosystem.
So essentially, how does it work then? Like, because obviously you guys are going to need data that's relevant as well. How does it work, and how are you guys able to provide that help to Destination BC?
It's very much a technologically kind of focused product slash tech stack that we refer to it as. So we're collecting anonymized data signals from our marketing efforts, websites, apps, every time we run a paid media campaign. And those data points are actually stored in Google's cloud. So we're able to get lots of anonymized data at scale in the cloud that we're able to analyze, build out personalized audiences, and then share that with the province to help them with their marketing efforts.
And so this data that's being collected, are you trying to build, say, demographics, kind of, maybe this person represents X and this can tell us, Y going into the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about that sort of behavioral intent. So, if we're trying to understand if someone wants to come to our province to ski, if someone actually lives in our province and wants to visit a different part of the province, we're able to tailor that message, whether or not they're in the paid ecosystem or they're on a website. And we're able to pass that insight and those data audiences along to other marketers in the province that can use that to help market their products and services.
So then, and this might be the next step, I wonder if you can speak to this, but then how do you get that message out to the people that you determine would be?
So a lot of that is through paid media channels. So things like Facebook and Google and other types of paid types of endeavors. But we're also using a lot of email marketing, things like customizing applications, our websites, et cetera, as well. So it's really about kind of communicating with that customer where they want to communicate and helping personalize that message depending on where they are in that path to purchase or where they are in the ecosystem that we're actually communicating with them on.
So ultimately, what kinds of advantages do you see this having for British Columbia versus other regions that are going to be competing for some tourism dollars that are going to be pretty scarce, not just in like the near term, but I think there's a lot of question marks about the future of the economy and how willing people are going to be able to part with their money, or whether or not, look, if we get, some sort of vaccine in us, maybe we're going to be excited to like go out and spend money as much as possible. It's going to be kind of one of those balancing acts that we'll have to figure out and glean data from that. I'm assuming moving forward, right?
And I think that's a lot of why we wanted to try and understand that sort of intent on kind of when people feel safe to travel, when are we going to be able to send out messages to encourage people to travel. And obviously we need to do it in a safe way and in a way that is going to be, adhering to whatever the government standards are at the moment. So we need to be very quick and agile in understanding how we can kind of get our marketing message out there, but in a way that's going to, be safe in this pandemic.
Are there still a lot of those ongoing question marks that will make you scratch your head for a little bit, just because we don't know when, say, international borders are going to open? That's a huge part of the economy, so we might just have to be thinking domestically for a long time, but we don't necessarily know how long that's going to last.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the big question. I mean, the entire tourism industry globally is and will be grappling with that until, a vaccine is widely distributed and available. But, during this time, we really need to make sure that we're ready for when the, tourism market does fully open up and we're able to service those travelers who want to visit our beautiful province. And we want to make sure that they're getting every opportunity to understand where they can travel in BC and how best to get here.
Well, so when Destination BC approached you about this, I mean, was it a problem? You were like, hey, I know exactly what to do to figure it out, or were there steps that you guys, your team, had to take to kind of, like, because we're in a whole new kind of territory right now, but there's also this level of expertise that you have that could be applicable to what this problem is that Destination BC is bringing to you?
Yeah, I think, the pandemic sort of forced us to really try and understand how we can gain more efficient understanding of the data that we collect, more efficient and scaled opportunities with the data that we're going to use in the future. And I think this machine learning pilot that we've launched will give the province hopefully a better idea of what types of audiences are going to be interested in traveling to BC, but more importantly, when they're going to be interested in traveling to BC. So the technology that we're employing really analyzes data at scale, meaning billions and billions of data signals are being collected, analyzed, and then hopefully we're going to be able to push that analysis and those insights back to travel destinations here in British Columbia, and then the travel hub that we're running for Tourism BC right now. So hopefully those insights will give us a leg up on competitive areas that are in the feature set for travelers coming to BC, and hopefully it'll give us a competitive advantage once the market opens up after COVID.
Well, I'm curious. You brought up data signals. Like, what would be an example of some of those data signals that you guys would be using and trying to figure things out?
Data signal will be everything from a visit to a website to interacting with our content, viewing a video on YouTube, a social media signal. So all of those disparate sort of data signals are kind of collected to try and paint a picture of what people are thinking about, what types of activities they might want to experience here in BC. And more importantly for Destination BC, what regions are going to be the most popular? And maybe some of the regions that maybe are not as well known globally or through the country, we get to promote those a little bit more heavily to make sure that people get a chance to see things that, outside of Whistler and Vancouver, et cetera.
Just for me personally, over the summer, I decided, instead of my usual, trip from outside of the country, I was going to stay in BC, and I went up to northern BC for, I think, the first time in like 10 years. So it's just, I think everybody is kind of thinking a little bit differently right now. So it is just kind of interesting applying technology to what is just like natural human behavior too.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I love to hear that you're sort of experiencing the rest of the province. I think I'm in the same boat where, we're in a beautiful province. Now we get maybe the opportunity, we're forced to kind of, be a little bit closer to home and maybe experience things that we normally maybe wouldn't travel to. So that's good to hear.
Well, as we wrap up here, maybe you can kind of expand on this. I speak to like a lot of businesses, and they're talking about how, COVID-19, the pandemic has been kind of an accelerant for the adoption of technology. And obviously data is such an important part of that. What has your experience been like working with clients, just kind of their willingness to try new things because, why the hell not right now?
Yeah, and I think we have definitely seen that. I think accelerant is definitely the right word. I think, the direct to consumer mindset of, large retail brands, of large marketers that we deal with, are very much kind of pushing in to the e-commerce space. You know, there's a McKinsey study, I think, that just got released a little while ago that showed e-commerce has grown in the last 4 months as much as it has grown over the last 10 years. So, you know, I think, you know, the big Amazons of the world and the Walmarts that are really, really pushing into it, I think it's just forging a path for the clients that we're working with as well. So I think data is again, a very important aspect to understand that consumer behavior and to be able to personalize and actually provide a positive consumer experience when people are working from home and staying at home.
I'm going to plug one of my stories from a couple of weeks ago as well, but it's just to bolster your point. But I was speaking to the Business Development Bank of Canada, and they're talking about how e-commerce adoption among small businesses, those are the businesses that are actually succeeding during the pandemic. It's just that willingness to kind of pivot towards those traditional models and kind of accept technologies that they may not have otherwise wanted to make the investment in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see platforms like Shopify, which I'm a big fan of, that caters to a bit more of that sort of small business type, very easy to set up. And again, I think people are willing to shop local, support local businesses. And I think e-commerce is obviously a much easier way to connect with people online, obviously, when retail stores are obviously a little bit less desirable to go into these days.
Well, excellent. Trevor, I really appreciate you taking time, letting me pick your brain about these cool things that you guys are involved with. So I just want to thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Very much appreciated.
That's Trevor Carr. He's CEO of Noise Digital. And that is it for the show today, but we'll be back soon enough. Go to biv.com for more video interviews, more stories there. You can check out our daily podcast as well. For now, I'm Tyler Orton, and this was BIV Today.